In the busy streets of Lagos, where dreams chase buses and people chase dreams, there once lived a woman named Clara Adeyemi. Clara wasn't rich. She didn't live in a mansion or drive the kind of cars that make people turn their heads at traffic lights. But she had something more precious, a dream that kept her heart alive even on the hardest days. From the time she was little, Clara had loved baking. While other girls were playing outside, she'd be in the kitchen with her mother, mixing flour and sugar, watching loaves rise in the old oven with a smile. The sweet smell of fresh bread always gave her a sense of peace. As she grew up, she dreamed of owning her own bakery one day, a small place where people could come, sit, and taste happiness, one bite at a time. But life, as Lagos teaches you early, doesn't always clap for your dreams. When Clara married Leo Adeyemi, she thought her life was finally finding its rhythm. Leo was charming, confident, and ambitious, a young real estate developer with a sharp mind and an even sharper tongue. He was the kind of man who entered a room and everyone noticed. At first, he treated Clara with love and care. They lived in a modest apartment in Yaba, and though he worked long hours, he always brought her little gifts. Perfume from Ikeja City Mall, flowers from roadside vendors, sometimes even pastries from upscale bakeries in Victoria Island. Clara would laugh and say, "You know I can make these myself one day." And Leo would chuckle, "You, my sweet baker. Maybe one day when I retire from business." But beneath that laughter was a seed of pride that would one day grow into a wall between them. Months turned into years, and while Leo's business grew, Clara's dream remained only a conversation, something she mentioned whenever she saw a shop space that caught her eye or smelled freshly baked bread. One evening she came home excited, waving a paper. "Leo," she said with a bright smile, "I found a small space in Surulere. It's perfect for a bakery. I can finally start small, maybe employ one or two people." Before she could finish, Leo looked up from his laptop, his face tightening. "Clara," he said in that tone she had learned to fear, the one that meant he had no intention of agreeing. "Do you really think I work this hard so my wife can be baking bread in a corner shop? Be serious. We're not struggling people anymore." Her smile faded. "It's not about money," she said softly. "It's about purpose." "This is what I love to do," Leo scoffed. "Love doesn't pay bills, Clara. You're my wife. You should focus on building our image. You know how people see us now? My clients expect a wife who hosts events, not one covered in flour." That night, Clara sat on their bed long after he'd gone to sleep. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, at the woman who once dreamed of baking joy into people's lives, and whispered, "Maybe he's right." But deep down, she knew he wasn't. Weeks turned into months. Leo became busier, traveling between sites and business meetings. He began to attend parties alone, saying things like,
It's not really
"It's
your
not
kind of
really your
event,
kind of
Clara.
event, Clara." At those parties, there were women who laughed at all his jokes, women who didn't smell of vanilla or wear aprons, women who talked about investments in champagne instead of recipes and cinnamon. And slowly, the man who once admired Clara's simplicity began to see it as a flaw. One afternoon, Clara baked him a cake, chocolate, his favorite, and brought it to his office as a surprise. When she entered, he was with two of his colleagues. They laughed loudly when they saw her holding the cake box. "Ah, Leo, your wife still brings you snacks like a student girlfriend?" one of them teased. Leo smiled awkwardly, clearly embarrassed. She's, she just loves baking." Clara's heart cracked a little at the way he said it, as if it were something childish. That night, she didn't say a word. She just sat quietly while he scrolled through his phone, laughing at something that wasn't funny to her anymore. Months later, the inevitable happened. Leo began coming home late. He started keeping his phone face down. And soon the truth arrived like bad weather. There was another woman, glamorous, loud, and everything he once claimed to dislike. Her name was Vanessa. She worked in PR, always dressed in designer clothes, always around people who mattered in Lagos's high society. When Clara confronted him, Leo didn't even hide it. He said, "Clara, look, you're a good woman, but we're not on the same level anymore. I've changed. You haven't. You're still talking about small shops and cakes when I'm signing multi-million naira deals." Tears filled Clara's eyes. "So you're leaving me because I dream differently?" Leo sighed, looking almost pitying. "No, I'm leaving because you dream too small." Those words would stay with Clara forever. The divorce came fast. Leo moved into a penthouse in Lekki with Vanessa. He started appearing in magazines, his name always mentioned beside phrases like young real estate genius and one of Lagos' most eligible bachelors. Clara moved into a small apartment in Surulere with nothing but her clothes, her old oven, and her heart full of pain. But pain, if handled right, can turn into power. She decided to do what she'd always wanted. She took a small loan from a cooperative group, rented that same space she once told Leo about, and painted its walls herself. She named it the Humble Crumb. It wasn't much, just 2 tables, 1 glass counter, and an oven that sometimes smoked when it got too hot. But to Clara, it was the most beautiful place in the world. She baked all day, sold her pastries herself, and smiled through the sweat and flour. At first, customers were few. Some days she barely sold enough to cover electricity. But one thing about Lagos people, they love good food. One morning, a taxi driver stopped by, drawn by the smell of fresh bread. "Madam, a beg, make I try your meat pie," he said. He took one bite and shouted, "Chai! This thing's sweet-o. You go see me tomorrow." He came the next day and the day after that, bringing more drivers, more friends, more laughter. Before long, the Humble Crumb became the little bakery everyone in the area talked about. Mothers came after school runs, office workers stopped for snacks, and even church members started placing Sunday orders. Clara would laugh sometimes while icing cakes and whisper to herself, "He said I dreamed too small." Maybe small dreams are just misunderstood big ones. And while she built her joy from scratch, Leo was busy chasing bigger deals and bigger problems. But that, my friend, is a story for another part, because life was just about to bake a new surprise for both of them, one that would rise higher than any bread in Clara's oven.